Morning. Um, Thank you for coming to our webinar today. I guess good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We've got people from all over the world, so thank you for joining. It's morning for us here in the States. Uh, Today's webinar is Understanding the Veriflora Responsibly Managed Peatlands Standard version 2.0. My name is Kevin Warner, and we're going to go over, I'm emceeing today. A few notes before we dive in. Just logistical stuff. Everyone will be in listen only mode. During the webinar, please type your questions in the questions box and I will answer them during the Q&A portion at the conclusion of the webinar. If I don't get through all the questions, I will follow up with you after the webinar to get those answered for you. This presentation will be recorded and you will receive a link to the recording tomorrow once the video gets processed. Go to the next slide. So again, I'm Kevin Warner. I'm Director of ESG Certifications and Strategy at SES Global Services. I have overseen the Veriflora Responsibly Managed Peatlands program for a little under 7 years now. I'm joined today by Hannah Casson, who is Standards Associate 2 at SES Standards, and Alex Judd, who is Program Manager at SES Global Services. He oversees a number of different programs, but the Veriflora Responsibly Managed Peatlands program is under his remit as well. The three of us led the revision process of the standard, and so we're kind of splitting up the talk today into to cover different parts of it. But I'm going to start talking about SCS. So Hannah, do you want to move to the next slide? Um, Most of you know who we are, but I'm just going to talk a little bit because why not? Uh, SES Global Services was founded in December of 1984, a little over 40 years ago. It's easy to remember because I was born in December of 1984. So um, I'm probably giving a little too much away there. But we started off in pesticide residue testing in agriculture, and over the following decades have branched out into more than 100 different service lines in countries all over the world. We have projects in 125 countries and counting. We have more than 15,000 clients, and we have auditors just about everywhere. Next slide. As we've developed and grown as a company, we've split out different elements of the work we do as we've become more mature. Hannah's going to talk about SES standards a little bit. That was spun out around 5 years ago as a subsidiary organization, but around 6 years ago, SCS Consulting Services was separated out in order to create a clear firewall between the work that SCS Global does in certifications and verifications and auditing to second and third party standards, um, separating out that any kind of advisory work we would do for those programs. Just to, I guess, as a best practice in avoiding conflict of interest. Um, SCS stands for Scientific Certification Systems, and the company is made up of hundreds of technical experts in different fields. And the Global Heat Reduction Initiative is a new program and subsidiary that we've spun out in the last year or so that's the culmination of more than 10 years of work in climate science. We have a whole team of climate scientists, and um, they came to the conclusion that we needed a new process for total climate accounting that gave more emphasis on heat reduction and focus on super pollutants. Um, we have a whole website on that. If you're interested, reach out. We're happy to tell you more, but we're going to move on for now. Next slide. So again, we started in agriculture, but have moved into pretty much every industry over the past 40 years. If there's an environmental sustainability or social impact element, human health, economic sustainability, across industries we work in it, and we are active in pretty much every industry globally. Next slide. And to do that, we have offices and representatives all over the world. It's sort of like the British Empire. The sun never the sun never sets on SDS Global Services work around the world. Um, we are global is not just an aspirational part of our title; it is a global company. Next slide.
All right, thanks for the introduction, Kevin. As Kevin mentioned earlier, I'm Hannah Casson. I am a standards associate with SCS Standards, and I've been managing the revision from the SCS Standards side of things. SCS Standards is an ANSI accredited standards development organization. We are part, as Kevin said, of the SCS ecosystem of organizations, but we are independent from SCS Global Services. A bit of history: we were founded in 2020 to house and manage all SCS standards, including those that were originally developed by SCS Global Services. We are responsible for the development and revision processes of all publicly available SCS standards. We also, at the same time, develop and manage standards for a range of clients across various industries. We have developed and established procedures for standard development and revision that are aligned with industry best practices, including our document structures, content revision, process for public consultation, review, as well as the final publication of our standards and revisions. Within this revision, as with many of our revisions, we collaborated with SCS Global Services, drawing from the depth and breadth of knowledge that Kevin spoke to, which has been built over 40 years across a wide range of industries. This included invaluable collaboration with both Kevin and Alex, who have knowledge and experience with the Responsibly Managed Peatlands program specifically. We also, in the revision process, consulted technical experts, including auditors and greenhouse gas experts. In a few slides, Alex will be giving a more detailed look at the updates in version 2.0 of this standard, but as a high-level overview, I'll say that there have been updates to reflect the current style, structure, and language of SCS standards, as well as to reflect increased interest in consumer-facing claims within standards and to better fit this program to the industry. The public consultation for this revision ran from January 28th to February 28th of this year. During this period, there was a very strong response from both academia and the industry, with over 120 comments received on the standard draft. These comments were invaluable for the revision of this standard, and we considered every comment as we finalized the version 2.0. Responses to each comment were sent back to the commenter following the publication of the revised standard, including whether the comment was accepted and why or why not. We are both grateful for and excited by the engagement of stakeholders that we saw throughout this process, especially the fact that there was such a strong response from both academia and the industry. This stakeholder feedback allows us to create stronger and more applicable standards, and also demonstrates the interest from both the industry and consumers in standards as a way of demonstrating high performance and improvement over time. And with that overview, I'll pass things over to Alex to walk us through some of the technical changes and key points to know about the new version.
Thanks, Hannah. So I want to start by taking a quick overview of some of these revisions. So version 1.0 was released in August 2017. This was as it changed from an annex to the original Veriflora standard. And now from that, we've created version 2.0, which is released as of April. As part of this change, we've clarified some of the language usage, especially a lot of those public comments came back to some of the definitions that we were using. We wanted to make sure that we were staying on the forefront of how some of those scientific definitions have changed over time. We've also clarified the standard scope and limitations. We've removed some requirements that were previously in the standard, specifically those around pest and nutrient management and agrochemical use and storage. These were things that were still part of the program, largely because of its evolution over time from the original Veriflora standard. In our review, we found that they were not quite as applicable to peat production, so wanted to make sure to streamline the process and make it as accessible as possible for people. We've also updated requirements around the greenhouse gas inventory and discontinued the use of the standalone greenhouse gas policy, which if you've been previously involved with the standard, you would be very familiar with. We've also changed some of the requirements and added guidance around claims associated with the standard. As Hannah mentioned, there has been increased interest in making public-facing claims, so we wanted to make sure that we were providing enough information that people can make those claims in line with the expectations of the standard holder. And then as part of that, one of the situations that we considered was places where entities have purchased peat from a certified producer, but wants to make claims as to their own product. So buying peat that's certified, changing its state, and then selling it as certified. So that is all part of this new update. We can change to the next slide. So one thing real quick to start, the organizational structure of the standard has changed a little bit. So you're going to find a lot of the managerial side of things located towards the beginning of the actual indicators. Part of this is the quality management system and financial management. A lot of this should be fairly familiar. Not a lot has changed, just where you'll find this in the standard has changed. We're still looking for a proper quality management system based on the size and complexity of the operation. We're looking at monitoring and analysis of that quality management system to make sure that it is being enacted faithfully. And then looking on the financial side to make sure that producers have a way to measure the financial health of the operation, including an annual financial plan. One of the new things that's come here is that the producer shall set aside funds on an ongoing basis to finance the rehabilitation process that will occur following the closure of any certified peat harvesting site. For those who are familiar with the standard, will know the standard relies very heavily on this idea of harvest and then rehabilitation. So this is just ensuring that as part of business operations, there are enough funds remaining at the close of harvest to ensure that there's an ability to do that rehabilitation process. And we can go next. So getting into traceability and chain of custody, we want to make sure that the traceability system has mechanisms to ensure that the peat content in a certified product is always a minimum of 75% certified peat. That means that mixing is possible, but we do need to make sure that the claims being made on product are faithful to the actual content of the peat. And in cases where mixing of the certified and non-certified material occurs, then the producer shall keep auditable records of the mixing processes and ratios. If a certified producer selling certified peat moss to a buyer for processing or resale, then they shall inform the buyer that in order to make a claim, the buyer shall request approval from the certification body, complete an SCS handler affidavit form, and may be subject to a third-party audit, and they must not mix certified and non-certified peat without undergoing a third-party handler audit at the point of mixing. So this is just making sure that any claims that are put out into the market are faithfully representing what is actually in the product. Next. As mentioned earlier, we have shifted the greenhouse gas inventory and target so that the policies that were previously in a separate document are now built into the standard itself. So a lot of this will not necessarily be an extra lift for producers, but it is making things more streamlined, easier to interpret. We are still requiring that producers develop an accurate baseline greenhouse gas inventory in accordance with the Greenhouse Gas Protocol Corporate Accounting and Reporting Standard. and we're looking at scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, we have a note here that describes what some of those may be. And then we'll be looking at that baseline greenhouse gas inventory as a point of comparison year to year so that we can see how emissions are changing over time and hopefully moving towards a target that is determined by the producer. Next. So getting into claims, in looking at labeling, we need to make sure that any claims are reviewed and approved by the certification body, that they conform to the certification body's labeling and language requirements, they comply with the U.S. Federal Trade Commission guidelines or other national guidelines if it's outside the U.S., and that they accurately reflect the content of certified peat in the certified product. And then secondarily, any claims shall only be in reference to producer's own certification or that of their certified suppliers. Next. We can get into some of the examples of types of claims that can be made. So if somebody is looking to certify their own produced peat, then they can say, you know, the company names, Peatlands are certified Veriflora responsibly managed. Looking at, this is the claim about their operation. If an organization is selling peat as a component or an ingredient of a final product, then they can make an ingredient claim saying, you know, made with 90% peat from Veriflora responsibly managed peatlands, which would mean that 90% of the peat in this product that is of various types is from certified peatlands. And then in cases where peat is consumed in the production process but is not physically present in the final product, this would be referring to situations like the production of scotch. This would have a claim saying something like the processing of this product uses peat from certified Veriflora responsibly managed peatlands. That way we're not making any claim that there is any measurable percentage of peat in the final product. This is all just making sure that the claims that we're making are faithfully reflecting what is actually in the product. Next. So yeah, it's a relatively quick overview. If anybody has any questions, we'd be more than happy to take them. And if something comes up later, then please feel free to reach out and contact us.
I'm not seeing any questions in the chat right now, so I think we'll keep it short. We're happy to chat if you have any follow up. You can reach out to Hannah or Alex or me. Um, but thank you for your time today. Appreciate you giving us 20 minutes to go over the revision and the new standard. Thanks for your time.